I call this meeting to order. You want to take?
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Next thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we had a little discussion about this. The special session is because it was at a different time than we normally meet. That's what that means, but are the minutes for the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, we have an ordinance that requires two readings on our agenda. It is Bill number 2023-47. It's to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, in accordance with the provisions of Senate Bill 262, each political subdivision with an annual operating budget that's in excess of $1 million must file personal financial interest statements or devise a code of ethics. This ordinance establishes a procedure for disclosing by certain officials, employees of any private, financial, or other interest in matters that affect the city. This affects the council, of course, the city manager and the chief purchasing officer, and that if we have any issues that relates to the city, we must disclose. And therefore, this is an annual procedure that we must conform with law. So staff recommends the council proceed with two readings by title only and passage of the attached ordinance, and the ordinance has been posted as required length of time.
Make a motion to read bill number 2023-47.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
No,
Weber,
Yes.
excuse me, Williams.
Yes.
And Miller.
Yes.
Bill number 2023-47, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials. I move for second reading on bill number 2023-47.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Bill number 2023-47, an ordinance of the City of Mexico, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials. I move for passage of bill number 2023-47.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to Section 5, resolutions. These require a reading by title only and passage, one reading. First one is Bill number 2023-48, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign contract documents with Flowmaster for the 2023 concrete project. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Sharon, this work includes reconstruction of curb and gutter as well as some sidewalk work. To cover the details of the project, Drew Wilford.
Good evening, council. What you have before you on your screen is showing our 2023 concrete project. It's getting out a little late this year, but better late than never. We're going to be able to close this hopefully by the end of this fiscal year, actually in September. As part of the process, we went out for bids and received 3. 2 of them are local contractors, with the other being out of Fulton, Missouri. Flowmaster Construction was the low bidder. After reviewing the project with them, we find them to be an acceptable bidder, and the work is going to include curb and gutter replacement along South Singleton Street, which is a dead-end street, shown on your map before you, up near the middle school, in essence, off of Morris Street, and then extending the sidewalk on Teal Lake Road, finally getting that to a place where our residents can have a network that connects them. You notice it doesn't extend all the way to South Clark Street, but does get them to a point where they have public right-of-way access along the route that's behind essentially business, the diner and some of those stores that are in the strip mall there. And so at least they will now have access to the commercial district, and notice that also completes a network that gets you all the way up to Lakeview Park. So continuing on, hopefully we can move that forward in the future and proceed even further. As part of this work, it is estimated that about $19,400 of it will come out of the remaining annual street maintenance line item, and then another $38,450 will come out of the remaining sidewalk accessibility line item. each of those corresponding there for the two projects. So we would recommend council proceed with reading by title only, passage, passed resolution. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate you guys getting that Teal Lake sidewalk on there, because I see them, kids even, up and down that road, so appreciate it.
Move for the reading of Bill 2023-48.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes. Bill number 2023-48, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign contract documents with Flowmaster Construction LLC for the 2023 concrete project. I move for passage of Bill 2023-48.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, the final resolution we have tonight, Bill number 2023-49, resolution accepting an easement for sanitary sewer purposes for the side stricker properties. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor. This is an easement that we are receiving from Side Stricker Properties. This easement is to build a sanitary sewer, and this sewer will ultimately, ideally, serve what is being proposed as a new multifamily housing complex. To cover the details, once again, Drew Wilson.
Well, as Bruce mentioned, as you have a map on your screen, the sewer is going to extend westward, from South Park Street. It's going to remain on the north edge of the trees. It's going to be a 20-foot wide easement. And it's going to run nearly 1,600 feet long, so it's a substantial addition. This has to go through the Department of Natural Resources as well as part of the design criteria. It'll serve that area that Bruce described, but also anything that gets developed in between Amelia Drive and South Park Street from here on. So anything that's in that area can easily have sewer access from this easement. We hope to see construction proceed with that sewer actually this fall. So we'll see how that works. It will be inspected, and then another resolution will be brought back to the council as long as everything moves forward in compliance with the city standards. This is located north of Teal Lake Road and east of South Park Street, being the main intersection there. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We recommend proceeding with reading title only. Attached resolution.
West of South Park.
West of South Park.
Did I say? I apologize for the mistake there. It's the same thing.
So this is on, so this is our bill, we're going to pay for this?
No.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
This is just.
That's what I got.
Okay, you're right.
They're going to build it, we're just accepting the
We're
easement
just,
this time.
okay.
So is he waiting for this to be done before he starts building?
We need the easement in place before they can start building it.
Okay.
Correct.
That project, he didn't get funding this year though, did he? Is that
He
right?
did not, but they're anticipating and they want to move forward.
I move for reading of bill number 2023-49.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bill number 2023-49, resolution accepting an easement for sanitary sewer purposes from Side Stricker Properties LLC of Mexico, Missouri. I move for passage of bill number 2023-49.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, we're moving on to other business, and what we have on the agenda next is a discussion. There will not be any vote on this, it's just a discussion of proposed chicken ordinance only. And to know if this is what you want, council. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. This is the draft ordinance. The last time we discussed, we didn't have anything really in writing. It was a matter of saying, what are you looking for? Hopefully, we've included that, so we'll have more discussion you have before it comes back for approval. To give a little bit of a background, we'll start with Rita Jackson, and then we'll move on to City Attorney Dave Gribble to talk about the ordinance itself.
Good evening, Council. As Mr. Slater has stated, I'll just give you a little background information as how we got to this point tonight. Back in February 2023, City Council made directive to staff to actually look at the animal ordinance as it pertains to chickens. Our current ordinance, which actually outlines you can have 10 chickens per acre, and any barn or stable or enclosure that is utilized for those chickens must be 200 feet off of the property line. And it should also prevent the animal, the chicken from running at large or escaping, or anyone else from the public coming in. And it would be required that you clean that enclosure at least twice a week. City staff, how we reviewed this, we started with populations anywhere from 8,000 up to actually 126,000 in population. We looked at Columbia, Jefferson City, Cape, Kirksville, Moberly, Fulton, Clayton, Branson, Ladue, Union, Warrenton, and Campton. Most of these cities do allow chickens. And what we found in the ordinance, they ranged anywhere from having 4 to 12 chickens. The lot size ranged from anything from an acre or 2 acres larger, 20,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. And our ordinance, most of our lots are 7,200 square feet. They had coop requirements, which basically pertain to rodents, weather, and to prevent the chicken from escaping. Most required a permit. Those permits were actually, it was just a mechanism or a tool to enable the cities to be able to track those chickens, to be able to let animal control officers know where they are, not to, put other qualifications on them, and to inspect the coop to make sure that they were something that would be secure for the chickens. We looked at the pros and cons. The pros were you were going to have fresh eggs, and basically the cons were, the cost of what it would do to maintain and get the coop, noise complaints, and the upkeep. So after we looked at that, we went to put some plans together, and in May we took it to planning and zoning based on the recommendations that we had come up with. So basically, the first time around, we recommended that it would be 5 or 6 chickens. We would recommend with some of the materials and for the enclosures, and we were looking at the permitting process. We actually brought it back to City Council in June, and we looked at, you all looked at the recommendations that we had made, and you had other information and things that you would like to see us implement into that ordinance. And what we came up with from that last meeting was that some of the recommendations to get that ordinance implemented, 10 female chickens, no roosters, 20 feet setback off of the property line for the coop and run. The coops need to be weatherproof materials and maintained to prevent rodents. The coops would only be allowed in the backyards, no front or side yards. Coops needed to be cleaned maybe on a weekly basis. Slaughtering is not permitted, and you cannot breed or sell the chickens. You talked about owner-occupied property only. And when we actually took it to planning and zoning, rental properties, if they had permission from the property owner to actually put a coop or have the chickens on their property. And permit would be required, basically a minimum fee, and that permit was basically at the start, when someone had the chickens, city staff would know where those chickens are located, and if they were running at large, and how we could get them back, and to look at the coops or the enclosures just to see where they are. It's just a mechanism for us to be able to track them. And based on that information, we do have our city attorney here tonight to go over the draft ordinance that has been drafted from the information that he has received from the input of the planning and zoning, city staff, and the city council.
I have one question, Rita. permit has to be renewed, right?
And the permit has to be, well, right now, we're looking at it on a yearly basis at the end of the year, that you would actually come back in January and apply for that permit again. And that gives us the opportunity to, and it would also enable us to, if you did not adhere by the rules and regulations, that permit could possibly not be issued on the second time.
Who's going to enforce this?
At this point, it appears that it would be the animal control officers.
So you're going to charge $10 a year for a permit?
Well, actually, we just put a fee in there that's open for, minimal fee, $5 to $10, and it would actually help us to know how many chickens you have and where they'll be located and where we can actually just
But
patrol.
I'm saying you're going to bill them every year. You're going to have to pay every year to have chickens.
Yes.
And can we go on their property to inspect the facilities without their permission?
At the initial, the permitting time to actually see what the coop is and to ensure that it's 20 feet off of the property line, at first, we can go in and actually look at that, because they're making the permit, and on that permit, they're giving us the permission to do this.
So, the
And-
animal, go ahead.
I'm assuming, maybe I overlooked it, very likely did, but I'm assuming there's a fence or something around the property required,
Around the pen.
around the properties, around the coop or around the pen or whatever we want to call it. There's a fence, is a fence
Backyards
required?
are fenced in, and then that coop would actually be within that space.
But a fence is required.
There is no fence required.
There's no.
A coop, that's it.
The coop, so all you got to have, the coop is a fence.
I understand, but what's to keep them from getting out of the yard?
The coop is a fence.
They can't walk out of the coop?
They can go out the front yard.
Build a 10-foot square coop with the door on it, they're inside there.
Forever? No sunshine?
If they don't comply, excuse me, gentlemen, if they don't comply with the, with the regulations, with the code, and then what happens? I mean, some are saying the neighbors file a complaint. Okay, they don't get a new permit or something, but what happens if they just don't comply with the regulations?
If they don't comply, actually, it would be no different like in your code enforcement. It would be, although we cannot step on your property, we can go down that front, that front sidewalk and leave a door hanger, that you need to actually contact us to give you the opportunity to call or come back or get the chickens and bring them into code as it should be. But just looking at it, and we have not done it in the past, we do have chickens currently. One running at large on Boulevard Tuesday. It's right now the animal control officers, they go out, and if they can catch the chicken, they will get it and bring it to the shelter or try to notify who actually has the chicken. In town, pretty much based on complaints from neighbors, we can actually find out where those chickens are.
So right now, we're talking, there are chickens in town, but we're talking about properties that are fairly substantial properties. We're not talking about they have a house 50 feet next door. Correct. These are acre-plus properties that you have to have a chicken.
Right now, you have to have an acre, and you don't find
Right,
any
an
acres
acre.
within the city. Most
Right.
of ours are 60 by 120 minimum lot size.
And by requiring the coop and everything that was presented to us, this is going to be something, this isn't to benefit, this is somebody who just wants to do it. I mean, this is not money-making, because I know some people are like, oh, well, the poor residents can grow their own eggs, but in reality, they're going to spend more for a coop and the clean and all than they're going to get out of eggs.
And the coops will have to be based on the number of chickens.
Right.
We say you have 10 chickens, it's going to be based on whether or not you have 3 chickens, 5 chickens, or 10 chickens. So that's going to entail the size of your coop.
And so the things that have been brought to me is, and I'm glad you brought this up about enforcement. And they're worried about, people I've talked to are worried about the lack of enforcement we already have. We already have houses in town that we've fought for years to get cleaned up, correct? And they're afraid that, what's going to stop these people? Okay, I get my first permit, and then I do whatever I want, and then they have no recourse. they may be waiting a year or more. I mean, we have that right now in our city, and so that is a concern, because who wants to live next to a dirty chicken house? Those are the concerns being brought to me, and it more or less boils down to enforcement of how this is going to be enforced. And they cite the dirtiness in the houses in town we have now that we can't seem to clean up. And what you're saying is it would be the same thing with chickens, correct? I mean, we can take you to court, we can try. We're going to do it just like code enforcement, but we do code enforcement on houses, and
You're absolutely right.
right. We've had some that have had 3 years in there. I mean, we had to take some way out there before we got any action.
What about existing chicken coops? You're gonna just say you've lost what you got? I mean, I got 2 chicken coops within, Roger and I have one on each side of us.
And that is because if they're just out there and we don't have any enforcement or know where they are now.
Well, they met the requirement.
If they met the requirements and they are existing, I would think, it might be a question for our attorney here, I would say that they would need to actually come in and register those chickens, or either because they can't be grandfathered in, because currently if they not own an acre or more, they should not have the chickens.
Well, I'm talking about it, people who own 8, 10, 12 acres in there.
Chickens, so they actually would meet the requirements and their enclosure is 200 feet off the property line, but if we're not aware of where they are, and then it could be a covenant or an ordinance somewhere that allows them to have those.
Has public safety been involved in this discussion that you're doing with the chickens?
They have not.
Because they're the ones, if the chickens get out and start, it's going to be our city employees that are going to have to deal with chickens on the run.
Yes, I mean, from 8 to 5, it's actually going to be animal control officers that will do it. Currently, we do have an animal control officer that's working from 5 to 10 to actually control. So it's going to be taxing to actually enforce it.
I know Chris and I grew up on a farm. I know Bruce grew up on a farm. We've all lived with chickens, big chickens, and it's a lot of work. It's just life. It's like livestock. It's anything. They have to be fed. They have to be watered. When you're gone, you have to have someone come take care of them, and you have to have clean facilities for them, all that. I think a lot of people think it's going to be fun to have chickens, but it may be for those who really like chickens and know what they're doing. But I also, I worry that we're also going to get a bunch of people that try it out, and then all of a sudden they sort of abandon the project, and we kind of got a mess. They've got a mess to clean up, and we certainly want to make sure they get that taken care of. So,
But I've lived in Colombia, and they have a less restrictive chicken law than we do, and I have never seen a chicken over there. I've lived in Mexico for 23 years, and I saw my first ones over by Councilman Miller and Roger's house. That's 23 years after I moved here. I assume that I think we're assuming that once we pass a chicken ordinance, every house is going to have a chicken coop.
no.
And here's the thing, is number one, if a chicken gets out, I mean, it's going to have a scary life, because there's a lot of predators out there. I mean, I have 20 deer come up in my yard, and I live in town. No one wants to do anything about that. And the lady feeds animals like it's a Golden Corral buffet. And so, I mean, there's some of our residents that want to have this, but we think it's Armageddon of chickens once we pass this, that all of a sudden we're going to have 17 million chickens here in Mexico. When someone comes to us and says, we'd like to have the opportunity to have chickens. I mean, I've never seen a chicken bite somebody. I mean, if they get out, I mean, what's the worst they're going to do? Go to the bathroom on your yard? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been around them. I mean, they usually run away from you. But we talk like there's going to be just all of a sudden thousands of chickens running loose in Mexico. And I've been into other cities that they've been presented that they have these less restrictive ones, and I haven't seen one yet in those cities. So, I mean, I like what you put together. I appreciate it. I don't know about I don't know about the reoccurring permit. I don't mind the one-time permit if we want to check it out. I just don't know about the reoccurring one. I mean, there's people that will call me up about things that'll happen that there's no permits allowed. They just keep calling me and telling me what's going on at the next door neighbor's house. So, I mean, people are going to tell you if there's something wrong with the chicken coop next to them. You don't have to have a permit to, you know, you don't have to have a reoccurring permit for that, but that's just me.
Steve, I don't disagree with anything you said. My only concern is passing an ordinance of some kind without being able to enforce it.
Is there a way we can, like, isn't it, don't we, so when we do grass enforcement, right, that goes right onto their tax bill, correct?
It can. So if we end up needing to go in and abate it, then there's an assessment that goes against property.
But, so how long do we have to go before we take action on something like that? Because that's my issue is just the enforcement, because, I mean, that's the biggest complaint I get constantly is stuff
Correct it
like
if
that.
I'm wrong, Rita, but in most cases, most of the time if you give them notice, the majority of them will do something. So it comes down to a handful that you got to go in and do something with. So, I don't remember the numbers, Rita. What are we, about 1,600 violations a year that we give notice to, and you probably only have less than 100 that you actually have to deal with from that point of view? Is that fair?
Yes, and most of them are repeated offenders. But you give them a 7-day notice to abate, then we send it out, certified mail, and then we can abate and actually put it on your tax. Some people, if you would just, friendly reminder or call, but you do have a few that will make it difficult for everybody in making decisions.
Right, and I know that number is little, but, we represent the whole community. So even if it's just a few people who are being affected by that, they're still being affected by that one house. And that's great. 70 other homes are great, but there's 5 that live in this neighborhood. And we just go, well, the other 70 are great. We got to look at it for everybody. And so my biggest issue is just enforcement. As long as we have enforcement, I'm fine. But I see too many things in our community that we have laws for. We don't have the people, we don't have the resources to enforce it. So it's like, what do we do? Why add more to it? And that's my thing with the chickens. Just like you said, we're going to add this to the animal shelter. Well, they have their hands full already. So we're finding more time. What are we going to take away to give them time to do this?
Was David on to speak to us about anything? No. Okay.
Good evening, Council. Rita pretty well explained the evolution of this, and you all lived it. And so I put together this ordinance to try and deal with all the comments we got from you and from planning and zoning. And so I think it incorporates all those comments. I mean, we've raised some other problems. We can, this is just a draft ordinance for talking points. We can change it however you want to change it.
I don't care about the permit. I think the first time permit's fine. I don't know if we need a recurring permit. My biggest issue is just having tighter enforcement so we don't have issues like we do with trash in the yards and stuff like that, where we have to give them forever in a day to get it taken care of. Maybe I'm overthinking, but in my mind, I just see some people with some pallets and a tarp, out there, and here's my coop, Well, you can't have that coop. Well, okay, take me to court or whatever, and now I get a year before I got to take it down.
There's no way to draft to cure that, of course. So,
right.
But you're right. And then, our experience in other cities is that, not only might there be a violation, there's an animal welfare component to this too. If people aren't taking care of the animals, and we see that happen a lot because it's not just some dog or cat in the house, it's out in the backyard. And it's like getting, a duckling or a baby bunny for Easter, and it's all fun and cool at Easter time, but as time goes on, the novelty wears off, but those, the needs of those animals don't change.
But the enforcement side of it, Dave, is it much about they have due process as well, and that's part of the issue, you know. It takes time to prosecute all that. And you're right, it's a long, tedious process that you've got to follow.
And we can't just go on people's property without an administrative warrant to check for violations over this or really any other violation. I mean, it's just...
Which makes perfect sense, I get that, you know.
Sure, yeah.
So we say they've got to clean them twice a week or once a week or whatever it says. We have no way to know if they do.
Of course not. No, it's like so many of our other laws, or like virtually every law and ordinance, Councilman. I mean, you know, you count on the goodwill of people, and fortunately, you know, as we've heard for violations, that goes a long way. Is it foolproof? Absolutely not.
No, there's going to be violators to anything we do every time. And we can't satisfy everyone.
Right, and then, you know, you just have to, I think, maybe weigh that risk and decide, is it worth taking some action or not?
Well, people who want chickens, I mean, we've certainly had people who want chickens.
Sure.
You know, they have to realize that there's responsibilities to that, and they have to comply with certain things, and otherwise, it's not going to work real well, because at some point, we may say, no more chickens, so.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And as you mentioned, this is not a cheaper alternative for eggs, by any means, especially since the price of eggs is just probably
And the
So
food-
there's a significant upfront investment in this, and, you know, the ongoing care and not to mention the time involved. You have to do it because you want to do it.
Is it a therapy, though, for somebody? Is it any different than getting a dog? It costs a lot of money to keep a dog, and you have to have somebody help take care of it, and you got to clean it. It's a therapy. It's something they want to do.
If someone wants to do it for that, you know, because if they have a therapy chicken, or they just for whatever reason, it might be.
No, it's true, though. I hate it. People have pet
It's
chickens.
hard to understand people's motivations, and really, maybe it's none of our business.
Is it an emotional support chicken? Is that what it is? Are they going to be bringing them into McDonald's soon?
They have a little
emotional
collar
support
on there.
chicken?
If it
Huh?
hasn't already
Have to have a little
been
collar on it,
predicted.
Saw a sign on the grocery store door that says no dogs except support dogs. Will be a chicken on a leash, I bet you.
Right, with a little vest.
Little vest and all.
Chicken.
Okay. All right, guys, anything else you want to add to this conversation? Otherwise, we'll send you back, you all back to the
Really,
drawing
is there
board.
anything else you want in here?
Yeah.
Or is this what you want brought before you, or?
Well, my opinion is the one-time permit should be good, once we know where the chickens are. If they quit having, they quit having. The other
Yeah.
thing is, I think we need to figure out, say something about the pre-existing chickens. I don't have a problem with them coming in and registering, but for them to build a new chicken house because we want it 45 square feet instead of theirs, which is, I mean, one guy close to us has a barn.
A what?
A barn.
So it's outside the 45 square feet?
What can
It's
we
very
require?
45 square feet.
What can we require people that are pre-existing?
Well, if it's on residential property, and this is all this ordinance speaks to, because we didn't want to intrude on any agricultural use. If it's on residential property, if it depends upon if it's a conforming use. If it's a non-conforming use, it's not grandfathered.
What's the non-conforming use?
Something that doesn't meet this ordinance.
Okay, so you're gonna tell those people they gotta tear down what they have and get rid of the number of chickens they have.
Well, it could be, these are minimum standards. They could exceed those, then it would be okay. Then that's not a violation of the ordinance. But if someone had 20 chickens in a 10 by 10 coop on residential property, one, they shouldn't have them on residential property unless their lot was an acre. And,
So if they've got 200 feet now, they got to cut it down to 25, just like anybody else.
If they're making 200, they're making
No, they're in.
25.
The 20 feet's only to cut down on who can have chickens.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
So they far exceed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The minimum.
they're way
Yeah.
past there.
so then, one initial permit when somebody wants a coop?
That was my thought.
Yep,
So they were-
I think so too.
All right, and so just then a one-time fee of, is it $10?
$10.
$10, though.
Okay. And then And so then there will be no ongoing inspections of this, and it'll be, I mean, I'm not advocating that there should be. I just want to make clear that everyone is aware of that. And so we're going to rely on what we're relying on now, and what every city relies on for any problems with any animals, and it's going to be complaint-based. Okay.
Okay, okay.
We'll make that change.
We would love to get this off the table. We would just love not to talk about chickens anymore.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we're still on this, and we ready to pay the bills, please?
Make a motion to pay the bills?
I second it, if you can. Yeah.
Haig,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
All right. We are ready now for council comments, and I think I will start with Steve, you at the end.
I think it was a good celebration over the 4th in Mexico. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and good by Tron to donate into our community. And so I look forward to that, helping the kids here. And so just continue to be safe and stay cool.
4th was very nice. Down at Optimist, I'd just like to mention, we talked about a lot of people from out of town come in for other things. A lot of people come in for Optimist games now that we're in leagues. So that place is packed out all the time. And it's nice that what Lou's doing. The only thing I'll mention is he didn't give us the money, because I've had a lot of people come up to me at work and they're like, what are you going to do with that money? And he says City of Mexico, but he's just talking about he's going to spend it in the City of Mexico. We don't have anything to do with it, so.
Okay.
I had the same question, wanted to know, Chad, if you gotten some money for your slide out of that pile. And I said, no. I said, that money didn't come to us to divvy up. But your director of finance collecting money came by to see if you were getting some money out of there, Don. Other than that, the 4th was great.
Have we got a picture of our slide? Aren't they building it?
There's a picture up at the pool.
Nice, all right.
Mr. Weber.
I don't have anything in addition to what you guys have already said. I do have a couple of questions, though, that maybe aren't quite so nice as you are. One is, we're dealing with the chickens, obviously, and I've only been around a couple, 3 months, but it seems to me that we need to deal with the golf cart, SUV, whatever issue. And personally, I would like to see some kind of an ordinance or a proposed ordinance, a draft, come to the council soon about what we think it should be. And I would like to see some comparisons. I know it's come up at the last meeting, somebody brought it up, and they were using comparisons of Avaz and Centralia and so forth. And with all due respect to Avaz, Centralia, and whatever, they're much smaller than we are. I'd like to see some comparisons to cities our size, Moberly, Fulton, Boonville. I understand that O'Fallon, Missouri has an ordinance for allowing golf cars and so on. You know, those are the kind of comparisons I would like to see. I think that the streets, highways running through Mexico are different than those of Oz, certainly, and certainly different than in Centralia. So hopefully we can get on with that and get that past us too in sometime in the near future. And another question, I guess, I've had several questions, I won't say complaints, although they probably have been, about, from developers and builders about primarily the water company and what they consider the excessive fees that they charge for what they consider very little work. And I'm saying they mean the developers and builders. And I just had another question today. A fellow said he was quoted $3,900 to install a water meter on his lot. Seemed excessive. Is that the norm? I don't have a clue. I've never put a water meter on a lot, so I don't know. But then somebody answered that and said, you know, he just paid, what's $3,900, $4,000, $12,000, a little under $12,000 to have 3 meters put on 3 different lots. He's a developer. And I don't know what other communities charge. And I know we can't control Missouri American Water. I'm totally understand that, but I think that's something if maybe if we want people to build stuff here, maybe we need to complain. I don't know what we do. If they've got a franchise, maybe we can't do a darn thing. But it does seem excessive.
You just answered your own question.
Well, I think I did. But
They're regulated by the Public Service Commission.
Right.
And so the only recourse that they have as anybody is to report to them, because we have no authority over them whatsoever on their fees. And a study that we did, I'm going to say, probably a year and a half ago now, indicated that any of the Missouri American communities, water service by Missouri American, that's pretty similar, and that's pretty much the fee. And that fee is considerably higher than any municipal-owned or city-owned.
That's what I guess I was asking that question
Yeah, so,
about.
yes, it is
What do they
much
do in
higher.
Columbia? What do Columbia, or what's, I don't know what Jeff City does, or Fulton, I don't know what they do.
And Jeff City is Missouri American too.
Is it? Okay.
But
No, Columbia's not.
But no, but, so, yeah, nothing we can do, and it's their fee to set, and the only place to complain is Public Service Commission.
I brought it up.
So, golf cart ordinance, the city council as a whole has basically said they've dealt with it twice, and the last round was do nothing with it, leave it alone. So unless council as a whole tells us to start doing something, that's where that sets. It sets as a no. They're not, so.
I would
I don't
propose that
think,
we, go ahead.
with all due respect, Larry, we did spend time on this, and it's been recent. And I know I had a packet of golf cart material, sort of like this. With whether I can locate it or not, I don't know, but I don't know if, I personally don't want to go back into it, but it's up to the rest of the council, too.
Well, I would like to either see us go back into it or tell the people who are in favor of it that we're not going to do it. Rather than them coming, I don't know, maybe that's what some of these folks are here for, and if they keep coming to meetings and say, hey, we'd like to see this happen, I think we owe them either to say, hey, we're going to take a look at it, or we're not.
Didn't we vote on that? Or we
There was a
voted
vote
on
that
that?
said you make no change. So if you wish to do this again, that's where it takes council action to pick it up.
I like your idea to see where they are with Moberly and all that. My problem before, and I will stick by my guns, if you do golf carts, you have to do the UTVs as well.
Well, I just pulled golf carts
I
over
think
it.
you can't, I don't think it's fair to do one and not do the other. And a lot of communities just want to do the golf carts. And I just, with where we are at in society today, I think, especially with the advancements in these UTVs, I think if you're going to allow one, you got to allow both.
I mentioned SUVs, I think, in my initial comment.
I agree. I agree with Councilman Weber. Something needs to be done. I think we can argue the fact of smaller communities, but when you throw O'Fallon in there, you can't argue anymore because they do it in basically a suburb of St. Louis. And I know there's other ones out there. I know we talk about a highway in my hometown in Brookfield. Their whole main street's 2 miles long and it's Highway 11. And they go up and down on those. So we can. I don't think that's true. I think it's a mile. I think it's a mile per hour thing. I don't think it's a state law. I think it's a mile per hour thing within the city. So, but I mean, I understand it, but we have people running around here on illegal motorcycles all the time, and I think it's hard for us to sit there and say, well, you can't drive a legalized golf cart if we decide to have some sort of rules and regulations for it. Because I understand they want to get on there and they want to run around to different places and stuff. I don't think they're going to be driving 5 miles on a golf cart, I mean, around town. But if you live in town, you want to jump over a couple blocks or downtown Mexico, I don't see why there's a problem with it. So, but
I haven't had a problem. Just like I said, it's just, if you're going to do one, you got to do both.
I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. So,
Okay.
So we're saying, okay, but what are we going to do? We're going to forget it? Are we going to have the council have the...
Yeah, you can.
Not yet, Bobby. We're going to have...
did you get the blue folder from the lady?
Yes.
That has a lot of information into it.
I think maybe you reach out. I don't mind taking it back up again, and I think, there's a lot to be said for O'Fallon, so maybe we need to reach out to O'Fallon personally, not look at a book or, see what their thoughts are on it, see what's going on over there. It's easy to say, well, they allow it, but we don't know the ins and outs of what that looks like. So I think it'd be well to do that. And then I guess we need some clarification. Maybe Laura can look into this, but I am pretty sure the state roads you cannot be on.
No.
Unless you have it is licensed through the state. But maybe I'm wrong. So.
We can get all that information
Well,
for you, but I think,
The other thing
But I'm hearing there is a consensus to bring the issue back, so that's what I'm hearing. So we can pull that stuff again, and
Susan Rocket did a presentation to us about it too. So that should be part of, if we want to redo that.
pull all that information, we can get some of that, and we can bring it to you again.
And Chief Lesko can give us his thoughts on it, too. He's got nothing else to do.
All right, we'll move on to public comments. Our time has come now, the public may speak. You've got 3 minutes. You must be a resident of Mexico. You can state your name, your address, in 3 minutes. Okay.
My name's Robert Allen. I live on 5 Oak Lane, Mexico, Missouri. But we need to clarify a difference between golf carts and side-by-sides. There is a difference. I have side-by-side. I don't have a golf cart. It would be greatly appreciated if the council members would take consideration to pass this. My wife has health issues. It's hard for her to get in and out of my truck. Hard for her to get out of the truck. She doesn't have very good balance. Believe it or not, she can get in my side-by-side. I can take her to Quinlan, or I can take her to any place here in town a lot easier than get her in and out of the vehicle. Not everybody's going to have the same problem that I have. I happen to be one of the few that has a problem like that, and I would appreciate it if you would take into consideration pass this ordinance where I could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Brad Brown with 3832 Redwood Drive. Just like to have you all consider allowing the golf carts for the side-by-sides. That way, my neighborhood, I've got older people that like to get out, travel around the roads, but they are afraid to because it's not allowed here in the city. So if you would please consider it, we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you all for coming. Oh, one more. Okay.
My name is Kevin Shaw, I live at 2326 Countryside. I'd like for y'all to definitely consider golf carts and side-by-sides. Everybody around the surrounding area, like y'all talk about, have it permitted by year. And I don't see no issue. All they obey the rules. Got an insurance card. A lot of them put you a little sticker on there for 1 year. So if y'all consider that, city council, I would definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Danny Campbell, live 1115 South Jefferson Street. Something like that, you kind of hop onto it, go see your kids, they live 2 or 3 blocks over from me and get my grandkids on, something like that. But, save me from getting a $3.50 gallon gas, my truck, jump on a golf cart or side to side, and I would appreciate it if you consider it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys, do I have a motion? Is that all, everybody finished?
Move adjourned.
Second. More coming, but
Second. Adjourned.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.